Okay. Um, hey guys, welcome to another stream. Today I'm gonna go through a whole heap of stuff. Where would I want to start? I guess we'll just talk about Adelaide because why not? So I just wanted to go through all the results. So, like obviously, Brody won the Friday race. Chaz was second in every single race across the weekend. Brock Feeney was on pole all three races. He took it a bit easy in the first one. It seemed it seemed like it took it a bit easy. Going through the first four corners, Chaz and Brock were racing like their lives depended on it, like they were battling for the championship there and then. But I think once Brody got through everyone and bolted up the road, then everybody else seemed to be beating Brock. Yeah, like 2 seconds down. Chaz 2 seconds down on Brody. 1 second back, Ryan Wood. 1 second back, Brock Feeney. Well, it's not even 1 second back. It's like half a second back. But yeah, so and we'll just look at this as like, well, I was going to look at it in championship with championship in mind, but there's also like other things like Will Davison went up 14 spots. But yeah, he went up 14 spots, came 11th, which was pretty good for him but he didn't quite have qualifying speed all weekend. He was just not quite doing very well. And nobody else seemed to be doing particularly well either on that one. Apart from Cooper. I think Cooper went into turn 8 in this one. Oh no, he got points, so he can't have been too bad. Went into turn 8 at some point. Then you got Chaz had his bad qualifying on the Saturday. And I think they were talking about how, I think in the first part of qualifying, Chaz had gone. They were talking about how Walkinshaw would release Chaz to go and put his lap down at the very end of the session. And so there was a lot of pressure on him to perform. And that's just not quite what we want to see. We want to see him get every opportunity to get a good result, but he wasn't. They just decided not to do that for some reason. And then in the second part, they had a starter motor issue, so they couldn't get the car started by itself. So they had to sort of start it and leave it running, and then they could release him. And then because they released him so late, then he wasn't able to get his tires warmed up correctly and prepare his lap, and so he didn't get into the shootout. But he was obviously able to race up into second place. So, and that was a crazy race. He was just going insanely fast and passing everyone, damaging the car as well. So, yeah, and then so Brody won the Friday race, but came 10th in the second race. And he was saying on Lucky Dogs they pretty much had the same thing that happened at Townsville. They started off well and then just started to fall backwards across the weekend. So he's 10th in that one. And then, well, he's 6th in that one. So they turned it around a bit. But there might have been other reasons. To go from, was that 15th up to 6th, that's pretty good. What else? Will Brown got himself into the top 10 shootout. He said it was so embarrassing how everyone was cheering him because he got in the shootout. He knew he must have been having such a bad year that, because normally they wouldn't be cheering, they would just be expecting to get in the shootout. But no, it's been that bad a year for him in terms of qualifying. Randall was good when he was finishing, but he wasn't. He didn't finish one of the. I think he crashed out of the Friday race when the conditions changed. It caught him out, put him into turn 8. Cam Waters had dragged the thing from further back. I think he got knocked out when Andre's. Was it Andre's engine went in the Saturday race? I think it was. Yeah. Um, there's a few things happen. Like you got Anton, who was in the shootout and further up, dropping down to 13th. And Bryce had an issue of some sort. Not sure what happened there, but and Aaron Cameron obviously crashed. Had incredible performance in the top 10 shootout, and so like we're seeing him getting better and better. What I thought was interesting though is that he crashed out in the Saturday race, and then he didn't have that same race pace. It seemed on the Sunday, or maybe he didn't have the race pace on the Saturday, so he was driving it like he stole it. And yeah, so it's sort of interesting that he was trying to get a big result, and we really loved watching that racing, watching him perform. And it really sucked that he was out so early because that was a wild card. We could have seen some sort of impressive result, but yeah, it didn't happen. Then on the Sunday, Matt Payne put it on the front row and bolted for the win, just like he did in 2023. So, and he was behind Kai Allen pretty much all weekend. So he got like Kai was obviously in for the championship, but I think maybe it was intentional. Matt was sitting behind him, but he didn't seem to have the pace there. Otherwise, he would have been right up close behind him. And but he's what, less than a second behind in the Saturday race, so that might have been more intentional. But he obviously qualified a lot further up. So like Kai qualified down, ninth, and Matt qualified second. So it's unless Matt wanted to back up the field, pretty much what he was just going to do was going to try and win and take points away from the other finalists. But yeah, I wonder if maybe he could have done more for Kai, but I think Kai was a bit too much of an outside chance of winning the championship. It was Chaz or Brock or Will, because Will had been doing a pretty good weekend. I think Will had finished ahead of Kai, and so Kai finished ahead of Will in the Friday race, but then Will finished ahead in the Saturday race, and you can see he gets 7 more points there, and then 10 more points. Well, yeah, 10 points up for Kai. It would be good to look at because I think Feeney was at 5,050. Chaz had 5,030. Let's do this on the fly. I think it'd be interesting to see what they would do. So you got Chaz, got hang on, let me share my screen, and we'll see everything. I'm gonna put this there. So we've got Chaz, we've got Brock, we've got Brown, and we've got Kai. Or because I'm using first names, let's just make it clean and simple. And I'm going to hang on, no, cut and paste that. We've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So hang on. So we've got we'll call it initial points. Right, so the initial points are 5,050, 5,030, and was it 5,015 and 5,000, because Kai didn't get a big benefit there. Let's find what the points were heading in. Now, so it's going to have to be a week ago, so I've got to go right back. Here we go. Come on. I guess we'll look at this one. I just want to see the point standings. No, so not that one. Where is it? There should be something. I think it's 5,015, but I'm not sure. You think they would have put? I think they've put out a lot of articles as part of the problem. Maybe this might have something. I'm like, I just want to know what the point score was heading in. But they just talk about the point margins. So Brown was 35 points off of Chaz. Yeah, there you go. All right. So we got that. Now, so after the first race, Feeney gets 39 points. 39 points. Hang on. It was Brock and then Chaz. So 39 points, 50, 89. And then Chaz got 46. 50, 76. And then, what's that? Kai got 36. No, alright, I'm going to move this over here. And I'm going to grab this there. So what was that? 36 onto what I got there. So that makes it 50. Get my calculator. 50, fuck off. 50, 15 plus 36. 50, 51. Kai got... No, that was Kai, for God's sake. Come on, wakey. You know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now, but I'm trying to see. Because, you know, maybe they would have had something, but they've put 10 million articles out, and that kind of pisses me off. For a business that seems to struggle so much with coming up with content, they've immediately put out a ridiculous amount, and they're just repeating stuff that's just not very interesting. Like, even the most hardcore of people like me, I check Speed Cafe all the fucking time. I check V8 Sleuth all the time to see what's going on. It's just dumb. So was it 26 plus what Will got? 50, 15. So 50, 41. So Will was still ahead. Brock was still ahead after the Friday race. All right. And then, so Brock won the Saturday race. So it puts him to 50, 89. 5, 2, 14. Whoops. 5, 2, 14. Chaz came second, 115 plus 50, 76. I like how heading into the last race, Ryan Walkinshaw had a graphic showing this is what Chaz has to do to win the championship. That was cool. Like, I like seeing stuff like that. I think it was something that Supercars had made. I don't actually check like Supercars social media, so I don't see stuff like that. I just see the website, and that's all I check. So I don't see, like, fancy little things like that. I think maybe Supercars media, um, people actually put a lot more effort into other areas than they should. Um, and it's kind of frustrating because they kind of keep on doing lots of things, but they don't do things where it counts or where I notice it. So I'll see, like, articles where they've done such a rush job and they're getting their facts wrong, and they're just not really saying anything because they're not allowed to have preference. I just don't like seeing stuff like that. I like seeing, like, make a statement or get someone with an opinion to come in and make their opinion. Like, get Craig Lowndes in to say that he thinks Chaz Mostert's got it or he thinks Feeney's got it. Get some of the commentators to commentate. Get Scott Sinclair to do some sort of mathematical thing and say, yeah, Brock Feeney's going to win the championship today. Yeah, so Chaz. It was a bit come from behind, really. Chaz had to beat Brock. Brown 106 plus 51.38, 52.44. Whoops. Kai 97 plus 51.26, 52.23. And then obviously, Brock had a mechanical issue that put him out. And I saw, we saw a lot, like, there's comments on that people were making saying, oh, Brock's a sore loser, and I hate seeing commentary like that because Brock is not a sore loser. Brock did an incredible job across the year. He was the guy to beat all weekend in Adelaide. And on the Friday he lost out, but he made up for it on the Saturday and got the win. Like, Brock knew that he didn't have to do anything too special to get the championship. He just had to finish close enough to Chaz. Because those little points gaps you get, that's an edge. You see Chaz close the gap there very closely on the Friday, and then Brock's pulled away on the Saturday, and then he's had his mechanical issue, which has cost him the championship. Um, you know, I think I saw someone was saying, oh, Brock's basically come back through the field so quickly, he's going to win the championship, but he was up to, I think, 14th, or I think maybe into the 10, when he started having when the mechanical issues started getting really bad, when the engine started getting worse. And that's what cost him the championship. He had pace. He would have eventually got back up to Chaz, but he had to be careful on his tires and things like that. So it was going to be a difficult run. But Brock Feeney is not a sore loser, and I think people who say that are the kinds of people who have probably never performed at a strong level before. And, like, Brock, yeah, Brock had been performing at an incredible level. I know Chaz was performing at an incredible level as well, but Brock had the pace. Brock was going to get it done. So, to call someone a sore loser when, like, of course he's upset. He just lost the championship. He'd done such a good job all year. And then you've got the Ryan Wood incident with Brock Feeney at the start of the race where Brock got turned. Woody got a 15-second penalty because he wasn't far enough. He wasn't past the B pillar, and that's the rule. And not everyone's going to agree with the rule. I did have a chat with some people on Friday saying that not everyone's going to agree with that rule, but Um, yeah, not no, I'm trying to like I was gonna muck around with things, but maybe I should. I don't know. It's a mess. Um, Not everyone agrees with the rule, and that's fine. The rules have been there for over a year and maybe even longer. So um, to see, oh man, I'm just gonna. All right, I got things on the screen. I'm trying not to be distracted while I'm doing this. Um, to see to see the reaction that the Walkinshaw people had when Brock got turned, that was rude. And I also saw there was people in the grandstand on the Barry Stream Pit Straight grandstand who were cheering that Brock got turned. And those are the exact kinds of people who would call Brock Feeney a sore loser because they're not respectful sportsman people. They're not like when I was in primary school, we talk about good sportsmanship. So win, but don't talk rubbish. Don't call don't say the other person sucks. Just you shake their hand, you say that was a great race or that was a good game. Thanks for playing. Um, you don't go and you don't go and make fun of them because they're upset that they lost. Like, it's been a long, hard year. You don't start calling people names and being rude. And I just hate seeing that. And I don't think it's good for the sport. I think it's a bad look. I think those sorts of people are the kinds of people who get in fights at bars because their team lost. Like, get over yourself, mate. It's just sport, right? It's the way it goes. You can have a respectful debate, you can have an argument about it, but you don't need to be, throwing punches, calling names, and being an absolute wuss about it. Like, it's just a crappy attitude that um, should not be um, should not be accepted by the sport, and it's not being accepted by the sport. Obviously, people coming after Ryan Wood, um, making basically saying things that aren't fair to him and giving him a whole lot of slack. That's not what we want to see in the sport. So and I think the same thing's been happening in Formula One, like Kimi Antonelli. People saying he let Lando Norris through. Like sometimes things are just a little bit not completely clear cut. Like it's not like he just lost control and went off the road or something and let him through. He sort of ran wide and then Lando went through. But I haven't paid too much attention to that, so I'm not going to have a big discussion about it. But Um, at the end of the day, there was an incident in Adelaide. Brock got turned. Woody got a penalty. There were some cheers by people who were happy to see Brock get turned. For me, I want to see a good race. I want to see a good championship. I want to see the best man win, and that's all I'm here to see. Is I'm here to see some great racing. I'm here to see people get the results that they deserve. I'm here to see some incredible performances. Um, and no, I'm just here to see supercars be the best sport that it can be. And sometimes when we see incidents like that, it feels like um, we're not getting that. But yeah, so there's that. And I think that's all I got to say about the weekend's results. So I might start going through my predictions for the year. I actually made some predictions early in the year. So we'll go through that. Oh cool, why is this thing not playing? This thing is breaking on me. Maybe I should get my ass into gear and there we go. Sometimes the YouTube interface does not want to recognize that I've got other windows open. Alright, we've got that. I'm not going to show that just yet. I want to show my PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, so here we've got my predictions for what was going to happen this year. And so this is where I think it's interesting, right? I don't think I really thought about who was going to make finals, and I think I put Feeney further down in the championship. And you got to remember these are predictions based entirely on what happened in 2024, and 2025 has been a very different year. We've got a new tire compound, which has seems to have impacted certain drivers like Will Brown. Like if it was the same as last year, Will Brown probably would have been up there. Um, but instead, we've got different tire compounds, different race formats. I don't think the formats played too much into Will Brown's results, but my prediction was for Will Brown to win the championship, and so we weren't going to be seeing stuff like that. So yeah, this is what we've got. So after Feeney's year of 2024, I sort of said if Feeney wasn't it was gonna have the same year as last year, then he wasn't gonna be able to perform. Um, and so what have I said? I said it will be a closer fight between Feeney and Brown. While it was close early in 24, Feeney had a shocking first race at Taupo, but also needed to tone the aggression down a bit to maximise points. He has the speed, shown through winning more races and scoring more pole positions, but you need to finish races up front to win the championship. Feeney also seemed to struggle more at recovering from a bad qualifying session, seen at SMP and Taupo. Brown was off the podium once until his shocker at Townsville, while Feeney had been off it 5 times to that point. Feeney had the same issue with maximising performances on bad days in 2023. So if he was able to fix that year on year, you would expect 24 to be better, but it was only his speed that improved. So, but I think that Feeney did improve in those areas. I think when we saw I think in Townsville this year, we saw Feeney and Brown qualify pretty badly in Townsville, but Feeney was able to make up ground better than Brown. And maybe that was more to do with the new tyre because Brown struggled on it more than Feeney did. Um, and I guess Feeney was just able to apply his craft better. So yeah, I put Feeney fourth because I just didn't expect Feeney to improve so much. And I I can't remember what year it was. I think last year I said Feeney was going to win the championship, and I was wrong. So then this year I've said Brown. I need to keep backing Feeney. Like even though we came third in this year's championship, I think Feeney is just the kind of guy that he genuinely has the ability to get it. Yeah, the not well, no. He has the ability to get it done. This year, an engine failure took him out of the championship. He didn't do anything wrong. It was his to lose, and it was out of his control at the end. Um, so yeah, that's what happened. Brown was just lucky to end up second in the championship. Really, Tickford Racing. I predicted third and seventh, so I predicted Waters to make the finals. But I guess I just didn't really think about finals and how much that would play into things. I don't know when I made this as well. I'm gonna check that. 2025 predictions. Oh, that says February 2025. So I'm gonna double check that. Created on the 15th of February 2025. So I think we knew finals were gonna happen before then, but I can't actually remember. I think we knew heading into the year that there was gonna be finals. So I expected Waters to be in there because we just expect that from Waters. Um, and I think the team just struggled more. He was, where was he before he entered into the finals? They're going to change the final system for next year, by the way. They're going to make it so that if you get knocked out, your points will go back to what they would have been if you hadn't made finals, which I don't really like very much. I think that if you make it into the finals, that should just be rewarded. I think that this year's system has been fine. I think that people like Scott Pye need to maybe shut up a second rather than just say things all the time. I think, like, I appreciate that Scott Pye likes to say his thoughts, and that's great. But I think sometimes the biggest problem with him is that he has a huge audience, and so you're gonna have people echoing everything he says as though it's the word of God. You need to you gotta be honest and say, "Maybe I'm wrong," and I think he does do that. It's probably more of the problem that people think that everything he says is great, even though it may not be. Um, I think that I don't think the change is necessary, but we're just gonna see how it goes. Um I get that they wanna make it possible for people who didn't quite make finals to still make the top 10, but I think the people who didn't make the top 10 need to do a better job. That's that's my take. I think if you don't do a good enough job, you don't deserve to be in the top 10. You don't I don't think there should be hand-me-outs. So, um, yeah. So, I can't really remember what happened with Waters in 24. Incidents, not really sure what happened. 'Cause all I'm remembering is what happened this year, and I think this year they just didn't quite have the pace. Randall, Randall's just been inconsistent. I was impressed that he got into the finals, which I think maybe says more about the people that were further down the order. He made it to Sandown because, Kostecki and Wood didn't make it in, and because Anton took out Courtney in the last race at Gold Coast. Um, and Kostecki and Wood had, like, Kostecki missed out on the Saturday race because he crashed in qualifying and just about rode his car off. Wood put it on pole, but he had fuel issues, and then they both made stupid strategy errors, which, well, they needed to win to get into Sandown anyway. But mm, I think Tickford were just solid fifth at Gold Coast, and they had no pace at Sandown anyway. So it's not like they were running up the front and deserved to make finals. They just didn't quite have it. So, but I think my predictions were more based on 2024. My Waters was doing a great job, and Moster was doing a great job. But yeah, so I think my predictions are probably the same as everybody else. We expect Waters and Mostert to be in there every year because they're incredible performers and they do a great job every year. So we expected them to be in, but he wasn't able to get it done. Things went wrong with Bathurst. That probably didn't help. I can look. What else can I show? I'm gonna show my 2025 ups and downs because I've got the point score here for what colours are Waters? And where did he end up? So he would have ended up fifth in the championship. Who's that there? Chaz Mostert would have ended up fourth. So you got Brown third, Payne second. So this is where everyone would have ended up based on the existing system. And sorry, I've missed a call. There's a good reason I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Maybe I should just have it upside down as well, so I'm not actually being disturbed. I sent a text message. Can't they read? So yeah, like Waters would have ended up fifth. He wasn't quite doing better towards the end of the year, but you can see everybody else stepped up. So Feeney was up there, Payne was up there. Probably saved his weekend with the race win at Adelaide. And Will Brown was up there as well, getting like top 5 every race. And then you got Chaz, who obviously was. I don't know if he scored. Did he get the round win for every round? Yeah, so round win at Sandown, and I counted that because of his qualifying, because Brock didn't qualify well in the first race. And most points in Adelaide as well. So, yeah, round win in the last 3 rounds. He just smashed him. So, obviously smashed him at Gold Coast. First and fourth, but Brock Feeney got first and fourth as well, but didn't get the qualifying right. So, I gave the round to Moster because he was able to maximise his performance and get better results across the weekend. So, yeah. What else? So that's what I got going for that. We'll go back to my predictions for the year. I'm gonna drink some more coffee and maybe I should look into how to make a workspace or something, because if I could do that and just have things like flicking from one to the other, that'd be a cool thing to do. I think that just shows, yes, it says I'm sharing. Maybe that's a Firefox thing or something, I don't know. Yeah, I think we're done talking about Tickford. WAU. So I actually predicted Ryan Wood to come 10th the championship. I don't think I got anyone right here. No one right there. No, did I get Randall right? I might have got Randall right. Let's have a look. Driver standings. I think Randall was 7th. Yeah, so Randall was 7th, Water 6th. I think. Oh, I didn't really show that. Anyway, I just need to double check I'm showing things. I probably didn't need to bring that down, but all right. So yeah, Randall 7th. I got that right. That's the only one I got right there. I'd put Chaz 2nd, but on normal points, Chaz would have been 4th. But I got Ryan Wood right for 10th. So I expected him. What were my expectations? Ryan Wood showed that he's very talented, but mistakes in shootouts, qualifying, poor time management in high deck circuits, losing out in battles, and damage in the mid-pack ruined a few races. There were also some mistakes by the team in the pits that cost him results too. If he fixes his qualifying, he'll be very strong in 25 and probably end up in the top 10 of the championship. Probably needs more experience to finish deep inside it. So, yeah. I was looking a lot more at Ryan Wood's abilities. He made more mistakes himself. But it looked like this year he tidied up a lot of his mistakes, and mechanicals let him down. So there's that. Yeah, but I was right about 10th apparently. I guess I thought other people would have done better. Who did I think was going to do better? Kostecki, yeah. Payne. I mean, there's a lot of guys that like Percat and Golding did not end up in the top 10 of the championship. Anybody who did that I didn't expect, Di Pasquale. It's not too different really. So Wood was right. The only one that says 2 in, Percat and Golding weren't in. So Di Pasquale was in. Kai Allen was the other one that I was wrong about. But, you know, I was making as reasonable expectations as I could, so I was just. I think everybody expected Kai Allen to not do well and not make finals. It was pretty shocking, pretty impressive. That would have been great. So DJR Kostecki. I predicted 5th. I think some people predicted him to win the championship. These are my predictions, but I have something else called my supercar season, where I just say, this is what I want to see. Like, if I see this, I'm going to be pretty happy. But this is what I think is going to happen. So I put Kostecki 5th, and I think he ended up 9th instead because he got knocked out in the first round of finals. I put Davison 12th. I think I just expected him to do a better job, but it seemed maybe Davison was also struggling with the new tyre for 2025, just like Will Brown, because he would often talk about in shootouts or in qualifying, didn't quite turn the tyre on. But then there are also other issues for him that put him further down. So people were saying, "Oh, he's washed, he's no good." But if you look at his results and you look at his performances, he didn't really have that bad. It wasn't like he didn't have pace all the time. It's just that there were quite a few issues. Like Townsville, he qualified in the top 10 in all three races, but things kept going wrong. Like he got turned by I think Heimgartner in one of the races. He was getting punted out of the way, getting bumped out of the way, stuff like that. A wheel didn't go on properly in one of the races, stuff like that. DJR really screwed up in 2025, and it makes it hard to expect they're going to do a whole lot better. But I think maybe I'm not being generous enough with my expectations um, sometimes, and so like when people have been making mistakes, um, maybe they won't cost them the next year. Like yeah, I hope DJR will tidy things up. I thought Walkinshaw probably wouldn't win the championship because, like, you look at all the mechanical issues they had. They still had a fast car at the end of the year, and it makes you wonder if they pulled their finger out to make sure that Adelaide won and that Chaz Mostert won the championship, um, because things just kept going wrong for them all year, but they were still in the mix. The mechanicals put Ryan Wood out of the finals. And he probably would have made the final four as well, because he was constantly up the front, constantly getting results. He was on the podium in both was it both races at Sandown? He wasn't on the podium in the second race. But yeah, so Groves, I expected Matt Payne to come sixth, and I think it's because I expected other people to do better. I think Groves probably haven't been performing at quite a level I expected them to. So I expected Kostecki to beat Payne, Triple Eight to beat Payne, and Waters and Mostert to beat Payne. So that put them further down. And I think, after the incident between Waters and Payne at Sandown, that if Payne was in, he might. Now, hang on, how did he go for the round? I've got all that sort of stuff. Is this a round? What is this? Yes, it's a round. So he would have come second for the round in Adelaide. So he would have ended up second in the championship if he made it through, if he didn't get in the incident with Waters at Sandown. So, yeah. What else? What are we looking at? So Kai came 21st. Well, I predicted Kai to come 21st because I just didn't really know what to expect of him. I think, well, there was a lot of hype. He was actually very impressive when he came into Super 3, and he was very impressive when he came into Super 2. Well, not very impressive, not like Ryan Wood level of impressiveness. He came in and he quietly chipped away and became a championship contender and snagged it at the last race at Adelaide because Zach Best threw it away and basically needed to do a lot better to beat Kai Allen. So yeah, I think it was just sort of hard to predict because in his main game performances, he wasn't in good cars, and so I think that probably didn't help him. If he had a co-drive at Groves for 2024, he probably would have had a better chance because then he would have been with Richie Stanaway, who put it in the shootout, or Matt Payne, who I think also put it in the shootout. So you got two fast cars at Bathurst in 2024, and Kai would have been able to perform and do a good job. So, and he wasn't quite able to do that at DJR in 23 in the wild card because it was a wild card for DJR, and maybe the Ford parity was particularly bad at that race, but Anton came third. So yeah, just not an easy one to predict. Not easy to get right. Hang on, where did Matt Payne come in the championship? 5th. So I was wrong about that. So how many have I been wrong about? I put Brody for 5th, but he was 9th instead. Now what about LeBrock? Was LeBrock? He's 17th, and Cooper Murray 18th. So Murray was I predicted 20th, but he actually came 18th. LeBrock I predicted 14th, but he ended up was that 17th or 17th. So just not quite having the pace in 2025. I think they had fast cars, but I think they weren't capitalizing and they weren't really getting the results that they should have been getting. Cooper, probably a bit too many incidents, but sometimes it wasn't actually turning on the pace. Like, sometimes like he'll be fast one race, but then he won't be fast the next race. So having that consistency has not been helping him. It didn't help him in 2025. So, and LeBrock, I think, just hasn't quite been performing very well, and so I think it's maybe good that Erebus aren't going to keep him. He's going back to MSR, and they seem excited to get him. But I guess we'll see. You're only as good as the car you drive, but I think also if you're not performing at a level that you should be, then it's on the driver. MSR, I expected more from MSR. I expected Nick Percat to beat Cam Hill, but Cam Hill seemed to be doing a better job than Percat all year. Maybe because of the tyres. I think some of the more experienced drivers, or the ones that seem to be a bit more settled in the old tyre, seem to struggle so much more on the 2025 tyre. So maybe Percat was one of those guys, and some of the newer, fresher guys didn't seem to have that issue because they didn't need to think about it. So Tim Slade was a much better co-driver than Dylan O'Keefe because he didn't put it in the fence at any stage. And then the thing that cost him was engine failure at Bathurst. And Nick Percat was on the drive home and watching Bathurst on the iPad. And I thought that's funny. He's just like, yeah, well, I don't want to be here watching the race from the pit. I'm going to go home and watch it from my house in my comfy chairs. So, it's fine. And like, maybe you just don't want to be at the racetrack if you're gonna be there. If around a team where the car didn't work, and watching your teammate having a pretty lucky run, apart from Cam McLeod turning Nash Morris? I think he got turned by Nash Morris. Who Nash Morris is apparently so impressive that he's going to be kept for 2026. I can't believe that. That's just called straight nepotism. Like, Nash has not been that impressive. David Russell was impressive. Nash Morris, no. Anyway, MSR seemed to sort of fall off a bit of a cliff in like halfway through the year for some reason. So hopefully they tidy that up, because in 2024 they did have sort of like flashes in the pan of performance, but I think I think they were a bit better towards the end of the year of 24, but this year they just didn't really pick the pieces back up. I think they did. I think Cam Hill got a top 10 at the end of the year, so it wasn't too bad. Um, I might next week do a bit of a breakdown, like a proper breakdown, talking about um, um, who did well, what teams did well. But these are just my predictions, and so I got all these things wrong. Did I get Cam Hill wrong about where he positioned? No, so he was 12th, Percat 16th. That's pretty bad. Premier Racing, I was completely wrong about this. Premier, they just struggle so much. I think Golden came 13th or something. Yeah, Golden came 14th. Richie obviously got sacked after Gold Coast because the team had already decided they didn't want him and didn't want to keep him for the rest of the year because what was the point of that? You might as well look at next year. So I understand that. But so Premier are a bit of a hype team. They sort of hype themselves up and they go into the next year promising big things and they struggle to deliver. And having Roland Dane, I think, is going to improve things because even this year, Brody Kostecki was talking about, I think he did a race of Trans Am and Roland Dane ran them, and he would go to the meetings and he would look at the rule book um, and he's an animal. So I think that Roland Dane is probably going to turn Premier around. Their biggest struggle has been consistency and ironing out the kinks, like having a fast car on one car one day and the other car the other day is just not quite right. And they're not going to have Ludo anymore. And the interesting point that Ludo made was that there isn't actually much need for like a stacked engineering group because it's much more about the drivers, and that sort of tells me that's why they and ah about the drivers, because if there might be someone better, why not go for them? Unless your driver is performing at a high level, doing an exceptional job, then bit of noise going on I'm hearing, then they're just not worth keeping if they're not being exceptional. So yeah. BJR. So Andre was obviously the shining light. Bryce was performing well on occasion, but Andre was the one who was doing a great job all year long. Some people thought that Bryce was the better BJR driver across the year, but he wasn't. He was not. He wasn't. He had a couple of rounds where he was doing a very good job, but consistency across the year, he was just struggling. Like Jackson Evans was the second best BJR driver for the first, was it 5 rounds? And then he got to Darwin and had the crash, and then his momentum just stopped, and he started getting involved in incidents, not necessarily his fault maybe, and just, yeah, wrong place, wrong time too often, and that ended up costing him. But Bryce, just didn't quite close the gap to Andre. But I think the writing was on the wall when we saw that he wasn't going to have middies. He's a main sponsor all year. So as soon as we saw that, it was like, oh, well, nice knowing you, Bryce. I hope you enjoy your final year, because that's just the way things go. The way things go. I don't know. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. Todd Hazelwood might be a good example. The drivers just don't get kept if there isn't a full-time sponsor, unless you are Nick Percat or Macaulay Jones at BJR. So, and Jackson Evans at the start of the year was very impressive, but his momentum started to fall away. And while he still had like impressive qualifying performances later in the year, and impressive drives, but not like, maybe impressive isn't quite the right word. He did do a good job, quite a good job on occasion, but I think once that momentum fell away, that probably swayed SCT's decision on keeping him because I don't know. I personally would have backed him. I would have kept going with him, but they've got the numbers and they've decided to go with Jackson Walls as a bit of a um, picking someone before anyone notices them approach. That's sort of what they're going for. And Jackson Walls did show steady improvement across the year, so it might not be a bad move. What did I get? Did I get anything wrong? I think Andre actually did end up 11th in the championship. Yeah, he did. Price 15th. But I predicted him 18th. Macca Jones 24th, but actually Macca was 21st and Jackson was 23rd. So I got those ones wrong. Not massively off. I got Andre right. David Reynolds, I predicted 16th, but he was actually 13th, and Anton was 8th. I just didn't think that Anton was going to do a great job. My prediction was that David would continue to be as good as he was in 24, but he struggled as well. I think a lot of those drivers struggle on the new tyre, so I want to go and reflect on those results. I think I've only got a couple of weeks because I've cancelled my KO. But we'll see. See how money shakes out. And there's other ways to look at the races. Or I can just look at what races were soft tyres, what races were super soft, and so I can see what races they struggled at. But I think maybe Davies was a reasonable struggle. It wasn't like night and day between soft and super soft in races. But maybe that's qualifying versus races. Like you can do a lap in a qualifying session, but using that tire across a race, some people struggle more than others. Okay, last team Blanchards. Courtney, I predicted 19th, which I think was accurate. And Aaron Love who was in at the start of the year, only did one round. So no need to worry about what that outcome was because he only did the one round. So I think he ended up way down the order, 31st in the championship. So yeah, those are my predictions. But I think I'll also look at get rid of that. I can't remember what I put for the. It's being weird. I'll look at my thing called my supercars season, my 2025 supercar season. Well, I call it V8 supercar season because I don't think it would change the actual order very much. It might be okay. Okay, so I'm going to show this now. Alright, that's what I want to see happen. This one's very short. I want to see Brody win the Drivers' Championship for DJR, but my prediction was Will Brown. And obviously Brody got taken out in the first round. Will Davis is close challenge for Brody? Nope. Jimmy Golding gets his first solo podium? Nope. James Courtney gets another podium? Yes. Richie Stanaway beats Golding in the championship? Nope. Aaron Love tidies up his performances? Nope. And Frosty and Waters went from pole? Nope. So yeah, I do this every year. I do this is what I want to see happen, and then I do my other predictions, which is just like this is what I think is going to happen. So yeah, put the fun hat on for one and the thinking hat on for the other one. So there's that. And I'm getting pretty tired, so I don't know how long I'm gonna keep going for this. Um, I'm going to check what I put for. You don't have access to this feature. Is that because I'm streaming, so it doesn't want to show certain things? If I go to, I want to remember what I actually put for my predictions. Live, that's where we were. Okay, so going over Adelaide results, whole championship, including how each driver did all year. So okay, we're gonna do that. Looking at predictions and maybe some other stuff. Okay, so let's look at driver ups and downs. All right, this thing just does not wanna. The stop sharing thing just is allergic to functioning. So I think I would like to become more familiar with how Windows works. That would be very helpful. Okay, so driver up and downs. So we look at Chaz's year, and the thing I like to do is look at the round score. So bad round for Chaz at Albert Park, 10th, and 12th, which like you end up 12th for the round, and no one got points for that third one, but to end up 12th for the round, it must have been a very competitive round at Albert Park. Because what's that? That can't be right. 10th, and 7th. Have I done my numbers wrong? 83 points. Oh, but also depends on the race. So I think the first and the third races you get more points for. So Matt Payne actually got more points for coming 9th in the first race than Chaz did for 10th. So that made the difference. But then Chaz came 7th in the third race. So I don't know. 9th and 11th versus 10th and 7th. Chaz should have got more points. Yeah, that might be wrong. I might have to double check that. So yeah, so we got that. He was running up. Very bad round at Tassie. Bumped round wide, bumped off by Stanaway. So yeah, not a good time. A lot of issues. Ran wide in qualifying. Got spun by Randall. Had a lock up. Had a slow pit stop. Things going wrong completely for him at Taupo. And I want to do like a ranking of like the best races. So that's a soft tire race. I think it's the second race is a super soft race. They seem to actually do quite well in the super soft races, but then I guess they went wrong for them in Perth. And then the second one at Darwin didn't quite go well. Second one at Townsville didn't go well. Second one at Queensland didn't go well. Yeah, they might have changed things because they changed the way they were doing things with the super soft, I guess, because they were quite good at the start of the year on it. Taupo and Matt Payne. So we got 6 up to 5th. So they were actually better on the soft and not very good on the super soft. Yeah. Yeah, definitely not very good on the super soft. I think I'm not sure what tyre they were on at Townsville. Will Brown. Yeah, he seemed maybe a little bit more struggling. He was actually quite good on the super soft. But then oh, we got bumped wide by Tassie. I think, yeah, some people started off well with those races and then went the other way. And then the super soft races started to become their worst races. Bit interesting. Kai. So, like, Kai qualified 10th in that first race and then went to Albert Park. His qualifying wasn't too bad. Like, started qualifying top 15, 12th and 13th, getting some good points. Then Taupo, 22nd up to 7th, great result. Qualified in the top 10 the next two races. Got spun at lap 1. No, I don't remember if that one was the one with the safety car with everyone double stacking. Then yeah, struggling on the super soft, I think, and then going a bit better, then very bad in that second race. Brody things going wrong. Spun Randall, post-race penalty drops from 5th to 12th. Hit the tyre bundle sideways and big battle with Mostert, maybe impact tyre life, ran wide. Yeah, and that's when Will Davison caught up with him and came second. Got run by Wood, didn't necessarily impact the results too much. Got span into the wall. Yeah, that was the incident with Bryce Forward. I don't think he actually touched Brody though. I think Brody just did it by himself. Yeah, it just looked a bit suspicious because Bryce was behind him. Yeah, struggled in the second race. Pretty good in the second race then. And then not qualifying very well there, dragged it up 12th. 6th down to 7th. Yeah, here Townsville just get worse and worse and worse. But then like in Adelaide they actually turned it around for that third race. Got the race pace sorted. And that second race struggled. Brock. Now I remember Brock actually didn't dominate the first part of the championship until got to Tassie. I think Will Brown was leading the championship after Albert Park. So there was Waters going into Albert Park, and then Waters just bled points all through Albert Park. And I think Will Brown took the championship lead. Had a Taupo because he beat Feeney at Taupo. And then Feeney dominated everyone at Tassie and just started getting on a roll and smashing everyone. But his qualifying pace was incredible. Second, first. And then Taupo, they struggled. They're actually very good on the super softs in the second race. And just fix their pace. On the 2025 tire. For the third race. Then what? They sort of tidied everything up, really. They are 14th up to 8th in that first race on the Friday race at Townsville. 3rd up to 1st, and then dominated the last one. They had it all sorted there. Yes, there's that. Ryan Wood. Woody was quite impressive, but just dropping a lot of points at Sydney Motorsport Park. But yeah, Taupo got his first podium. Ran wide in qualifying at Albert Park, but it might have been one of those ones where I don't know what the corners are at Albert Park, but there's one that they were coming out and they were all just grabbing a bit of dirt, and that wouldn't have been helping their performances. Um, um, and ran Kostecki off at Taupo. They were battling really hard. Tassie, bad start. And the bad start in the second one as well. The third one, I mean, bad, really bad in qualifying. They really struggled in that second race. Suspension failure in the second race at Perth, and then a crash with Golding, and like the 3 DNFs in a row did not help him. But I think that he went into Gold Coast. Was he 10th there? Probably did, yeah. That mechanical failure at Bathurst would have put him out as well. So a lot of issues costing him, mostly mechanical, but also some stupid crashes that he had. Bad start, crossed over in front of Cameron and span off. Yeah, quite a bit of biffo. Engine belt issues, weird one. 24th up to 8th. And just went wrong in qualifying and mechanical gremlins all weekend. Maybe the engine belt issues. Mistake in the shootout for that last race at Townsville. Something happened at QR in that one. Oh, he got spun, right? Did he get spun? No, he spun Will Brown, then I guess he got a 15-second penalty. Probably because the field was closed up because of that virtual safety car. Mechanical issue at Bathurst, mechanical issue at Gold Coast, mechanical issue at Sandown. 15-second penalty at Adelaide. I think the suspension issue on the right front might have been related to that incident with Feeney as well. So I think it wasn't necessarily a mechanical failure. Anton. Now, it's sort of funny. So, if he made it into Sandown, he was 4th for the round, but they did that necessarily. Oh, he probably would have made finals if he was, if he didn't, if he did that. But then even if he did, he would not have won the championship. So, no point wondering about that one. And they're going to be the factory GM team, or the factory GM team. They're going to be the homologation team. So that just means that they are responsible for providing parts or providing the basis for which every GM car is compared to. So that's what they have to do. And that's for I think that it's probably the one that's gone to Windcheer at the moment. And so that one's going to be the basis for which they use that fancy camera to make sure everyone's aero is accurate, which is cool. So Anton had a very good year. Then went to a slow pit stop at Taupo, run off at turn 1 by Kostecki. That one was annoying to see. It's like, why are you racing so hard straight away? I don't know if he dropped all of those positions straight away. He span Cam Hill at Tersey. He was having a bad race too, but managed to qualify 10th in the last one. Then got bumped up by Coop Murray at turn 1 and garage with issues. So didn't have a great time there, but he still made it into. He would have made it into Adelaide, which is a bit surprising, really. So, and because he was really clawing through the field, like look at this stretch here, from the second race at Darwin. Just like racking up top 10s constantly. So really clawed his way into the top 10. He was up to like 7th or something. Like if I look at the title chase, this him, yeah, he's just picking him off bit by bit. Apparently Kai Allen would have got him, but he would have been 8. He would have been Yeah, he would have been 8th in the championship. Kai would have been 7th. Anton would have been 8th. Brody 6th. That Cam 7th. Chaz 4th. Cam 5th. So yeah. Andre. Couple of bad rounds there at Tassie and Perth, but not like really bad rounds. Very lucky. Something went wrong at the bend there. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think I had some sort of damage. I would have it in my book. Engine let go in qualifying. I think it was for the Saturday. He was on his lap and his engine just crapped itself and put oil all over the track, and it cost Brody and Cam results. Lock up amidst battle with pain. Andre Heimgartner held up in the pits at Taupo, but still came 8th. Got run wide. Big battle with Feeney hanging on position. And off at turn 1 after side contact with Aaron Cameron. But he didn't qualify very well, so it didn't help. Lock up in practice, ran wide in practice, desperate dive bombs and Aaron Cameron. Yeah, he was driving like a menace in that one. Tagged Davis into a spin when Davo decided to enter pits, and Courtney was having his engine failure. Blocks forward under brakes, causing him to lock up. Locks rears and tags Hill into a spin. Run into the rear by forward and got 15 seconds for spinning Hill. So good times, Andre. Not your best performances. Yeah, something went wrong. I think there's maybe no pace at that first race at Queensland. Apart from that, not too bad. The first race at Sandown was not good, but made up for it in the second race. So, yeah. Cam Waters. Now, we were talking about his year and saying he just didn't quite have the pace at times, but something went wrong in that second race at Taupo. Maybe no pace. 18th at the 12th. They were really struggling with pace on occasion, it seemed. Third one at Tassie, not great. Ram Brown wide, pit issue with the fuel can. Oh, that was bad. Big battle with Ryan Woods. The pace wasn't too bad on occasion. And a wheel came off at Darwin. That sucks. And things just going wrong in town. So the thing is with these notes is that's when I started taking notes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that more things went wrong. That's just where I've written my notes. I've got notes for Queensland and the Bend, and that's all I've got notes for. I think it's got a bit much. Hit the wall in qualifying, hit by Evans and instant with Randall Golding and Stanaway, released in front of Allen in the pits. Under investigation, got 5 seconds. I think they also had damage from that incident as well. Incident with player cost Harper. Too aggressive really, but he had nothing to lose. Alone do you if you came 12th in the first race? Might have been a bit. They could have maybe calculated things. I think Tickford absolutely dropped the ball. Not just dropped the ball, they kind of slammed the ball because they just didn't have the pace. They didn't quite have the pace. But you can see he qualified in the top 10 in both races. Randall was the one that seemed to struggle so much more at Sandown. 22nd and 9th. But for a finalist, it was like, you've got to be kidding me. How do you get that wrong? And that was about it. Just didn't really have the pace at the end of the year at Adelaide. But I feel like we've seen better years for Waters, but hard to say. Randall. I feel like I'm gonna compare 2025 to 24 and 23 because I did a video at the end of last year saying that Randall did not deserve fifth in the championship. But then he's come in this year and he's ended up seventh in the championship. So I wonder if that's the competition wasn't good enough or if Randall was doing better. I think it's probably more of the former than the latter. I don't think Randall did a better job this year. There's also like the different size races, so you get different points, and that sort of helped him in 24 as well. Because in 2023 they had the super sprints, but in 24 I think they condensed the championship more. Um, they didn't have the super sprints so much; they had longer races. So yeah, we'll see. I'll have to check all over that again. Courtney did a very good job at SMP. They didn't necessarily always have the pace, but here's the thing: it's BRT, right? And they did start to improve a little bit. Like, when did we start to see him? It was 8th in qualifying at Tassie, 13th at Perth, 8th at Darwin, 12th at Darwin, 15th. So quite good performances there. After that podium at Perth. 5th at Townsville, then the engine died. 12th at QR, 13th at QR. So he actually had pretty good pace there. But they made a bad decision on that Sunday race with putting him on wets, and he didn't need to go on wets. Gearbox failure at Bathurst, and they were running in the top 10. The bend just maybe didn't have the pace. So starting to improve. 7th, 5th. I think we saw Aaron Cameron actually start to qualify better than Courtney as well at times. And then 15, 17, 15, 17. So yeah, not the greatest. But yeah, getting some decent points. I don't know if it was better than last year. Reynolds. So at the start of the year, we saw Reynolds really struggle. At the start of the year, we were like, Reynolds should be doing better than this. Qualified 9th in that third race. So it's a bit better. 18th up to 11th for the first race at Taupo, so a very good performance for David Reynolds. I think I always believe in Reynolds. I think a lot of people wrote him off. I think heading into Townsville, people were still writing him off, and he put it on pole. But I think when you look at the way Anton was performing, it's obviously easier to look at Anton and go, Davey's nowhere near, because Davey was struggling to get a top 10. And so have we got... No, I haven't finished doing that yet. I might do... maybe I'll have that ready for you next week, where we'll actually break down people's performances against one another and see who was doing an exceptional job, who was doing a bad job. So yeah, there's a lot of data to go through, and I was very sick this week, and yeah, it's been a pretty hectic time, and I also just need to relax to get my energy back, and I think today's going to be the same. So yeah, priority is going to be chilling. I have to do a little bit of stuff, but nothing too serious. And obviously I work mornings now, so I can do my washing during the week. So that should be fine. And because of daylight savings, I can just don't have to worry about it. So yeah, a couple of top 10s, couple of top 10, qualified 5th at Perth there for Reynolds. Qualified on pole at Townsville, ended up 10th, which, for the other results that he got, was pretty good, really. I just sort of expected more. But maybe they had a good qualifying car, not a good race car. 7th in the 9th, 10th and 11th, so it wasn't too bad there at QR. Wasn't too bad at the bend, and ended up on the podium at Bathurst. I think their car was actually quite good in the dry as well. What else? Qualified 10th at Sandown, qualified 8th at Gold Coast. We do have expectations that Reynolds is going to do a very good job at Gold Coast, and he did. So qualified 8th, and got strategy wrong, ended up 14th. 24th up to 12th, great performance. Sandown the wrong tyres at the end of qualifying, so he had to claw a lot of positions back. Adelaide had pace for 11th, it seemed, but not in the qualifying. I think something went wrong at Adelaide in that first race. Cam Hill. So yeah, we're talking about Cam Hill versus Nick Percat, and Cam Hill put it in 9th. I think he was in a shootout actually. In that race, down to 13th. MSR weren't happy with their performances; they expected more. Maybe something happened to Cam Hill in that third race there. Very good at Albert Park, very good at Taupo. I think that's second place at Taupo, probably saved this weekend. But yeah, obviously got podiums at Albert Park, very good breakout performance. But after that, not much to write about really after Taupo. 15 seconds for punting Cooper Murray, held up in the pits, and a penalty applied post-race, dropping him from 7th to 14th. So he actually had very good pace there. He finished 7th. And he can qualify well in that second race. And had to grab a few positions. Got spun by De Pasquale, and then he bumped full wide. Qualified 8th at Perth, dropped to 23rd. That's a bad one. 7th down to 9th at Darwin. I wonder if he had his what are they called? It's not rabble, it's dabble. I wonder if he had dabble on at Darwin. He did have them at Albert Park, so that actually became a bit of an iconic livery. It's a gambling site, sports gambling site. Townsville 5-second post-race penalty for hitting Jones in the pits. A weird one. 12th dropped to 24th. Bump Kostecki on the way past to bring into the wheels and damage brakes. Oh, that was that one. Okay. Yep. So that was a bit of a weird mechanical issue there. Actually, it wasn't really a mechanical issue, just an unlucky one. Yeah, McLeod got spun by Morris at Bathurst, but they still ended up 5th. But that was a crazy race, that one. And compared to 2024, which was a no safety car race, we just saw straight up racing. A lot of people thought it was a snooze fest. I think they felt the same about 23, but I don't think 2023 was that bad. Gold Coast 23rd to mechanical failure. Not sure what the mechanical failure was. He did end up in the garage at some stage. 6 dropped to 24th there. I think I heard he went in the fence on the first few laps. The second race at Adelaide, the 13th down 21st. That's not very good. Not sure what happened there, but yeah, he ended up 8th in the last race of the year. 12th in the championship. So it's 2 years in a row, Cam Hill 12th in the championship. And then here's Will Davison. And so people like to bag Will Davison and say, oh, he did this, he did that, he's no good. And quite a few of his qualifying performances left much to be desired. But I do want to have him compared to Brody in some of these races, because in some of them, Brody was no good at Tassie as well. So ran off turn one and a hot lap qualify. So maybe could have qualified better in that first race. 16 down to 21st, 13th dropped to 24th. So not having a great time to begin with. 7th down to 9th. So just no race pace, it seemed. Albert Park, pretty decent pace. But not in qualifying apparently in those first two. Double stacked in the first one at Taupo. But yeah, it was not too bad, but those first two races did not help him. But yeah, Tassie very bad. Spun by Jones, disqualified post race, as was Brody. So that wouldn't have helped. Got hit by Courtney into the Brock, spinning the Brock. And Darwin, like Perth, got a top 10, not great. Darwin, not great at all. Got hit in chain reaction into Reynolds by Courtney. A pit lane penalty. For some reason in that third race at Darwin. And when I'm going through some things, I might actually have these races going so I can actually start taking some of these extra notes. That might be good to do. So yeah, Townsville, Will Davison actually qualified in the top 10 in all 3 races. He got bumped by Deepest Quail on his way past. I think there was quite a bit of biffo at Townsville. He ran wide, slightly slow pit stop, lost a spot to forward. Struggled to turn the tyres on the shootout. Got tyre popping damage from Brown, then turned by Heimgartner and had to use tyres for the final stint. You know, it's crazy that he still ended up 13th. So he must have had a really good race until that point. 6 dropped the 23rd. Maybe held up by forward in Q2, used tyres in the shootout, wheel spin on final turn, lock up in the race, and a wheel nut fell off after the pit stop. DJR being rubbish. Queensland, no pace in that first one, 16th up to 10th, and the second one, 18th up to 17th. He must have been one of the worst qualifiers of the year, I think, because, maybe not the worst, but he must have been down there because I don't think anyone else would have been doing that badly. And just nothing at the bend. I think they might have had an incident in that race as well. He was in a few incidents with the Brock at Queensland as well. So that might have been those first and third races. D'Alberto crashed the car at Bathurst. 5-second penalty at Gold Coast for contact with Matt Payne. And put in the fence by forward. Not too bad at Sandown. Didn't qualify very well in that second race, but 14th up to 11th, 23rd up to 14th, 25th up to 11th we saw. And 23rd up to 17th was not very good, and 14th up to 13th, not so great either. 20th the championship, big disappointment for Will Davison. Yeah. Jimmy Golding. So only down to the 16th driver. It's taken me a while. I'm pretty worn out as well, so I might not go too much longer. And I haven't had anyone to bounce off of either. So keep trying, keep pushing, and see if I can get to the end of this. So Golding, Premier, such a struggle street team, and this is a team that I've been part of as a Jimmy Golding fan. To see this team just constantly up and down, they've been such a disappointment. For even in 23, 24, 25. I know they sort of came up looking good in 24, but half the time in 24 they were bad, and then half the time they were good, and that's just not good enough. So yeah, they started the SMP round quite badly, 24th to 22nd, so no pace there. 14th up to 9th, they found some race pace. Qualified 6th for the third race, and then dropped down to 18th, so not too bad there. Some sort of issue at Out Park, can't remember. There might have been a crash. 11th down to 13th and 7th down to 23rd. I think there was some sort of incident with someone. Taupo, 19th up to 9th, very good job. 22nd up to 18th, that's a shocker. 10th stayed 10th, good job. Then some very good performances at Tassie. And yeah, they bolted and they had the lead. And then had the safety car. And held up by lap. Courtney, not helpful. Perth, 10th down to 13th, not great. 18th up to 14th is a bit better, but not great. 6th dropped to 22nd. That should say drop to 22nd, not down to 22nd. Because if it's 10 spots or more, I say dropped. So I might change that actually. Okay, 23rd up to 60th. No pace at Townsville. At Darwin, which is disappointing. And they didn't really have much pace at Townsville either. Queensland, they were pretty good. 8th down to 14th, not sure what happened there. 7th down to 9th. But Richie was actually doing a better job than Jimmy at Queensland. 22nd and 25th, I think they had an incident and that caught them out. And a 5-second penalty for tagging Murray, but he still ended up on the podium. Gold Coast, 5th down to 12th, mechanical issues. I think they might have had another thing on the rear in the pits. Not sure though. 22nd up to 18th in the second race, so that's just not very good at all. But yeah, they took it in turns who had a fast car each day. So Golding had a fast car on the Saturday, Richie had a fast one on the Sunday. Sandown, 17th up to 10th, 13th down to 20th, not very good. And then no pace at Adelaide, so yeah, pretty rubbish. Macca Jones. People like to bag Macca Jones. But we will see. You gotta top 15 is usually pretty good for Macca. So he's doing a pretty decent job. If he's qualifying like top 16, he's not in the 20s too often. It would be good to see his qualifying performances if they've actually improved a whole lot. Could even look at the gap between him and Andre, or whoever qualified the highest, to see if he's actually qualifying that well. Engine power at Taupo is a disappointing one. Doesn't usually have too many issues. And he was having such a great race as well at Bathurst, and he got put in the elbow by Stanaway, who was flying along, driving like a madman in the wet. But yeah, great race at Tassie for Macca. Qualified 5th, great performance, and down to 5th. I don't know why, but he had no pace, and he just got freight trained at Adelaide to qualify 6th and then dropped to 16th. Because that wasn't even like a mucky qualifying session. He just put a mega lap together. And Darwin was a great one too, qualified 8th down to 14th. So I think Macca was doing a pretty solid job. But I'll have to go through the details a bit better. Maybe even go through details year on year. That'd be good to look at as well. Here's Bryce. People are like, oh yeah, Bryce doing such a great job. He's the best BJR driver. But those first 3 rounds, no, he's not. Tassie, he got a podium and then 14th and 20th. That's not that great. Qualifying, he was pretty good. But yeah, some of these races just struggling. Like no pace at Queensland, no pace at the Van, no pace at Bathurst. Dropped several laps down, still ended up 21st. So I think they got lucky with the lucky dog. 15 seconds put Davis in the fence, and I think maybe he might have had other issues to go laps down. And great job at Sandown, and then Adelaide nothing, but he ended up top 10 in his last race, which is pretty good. Qualifying was not too bad either. I think something must have gone wrong in that Saturday race. But yeah, Bryce was not the best BJR driver in that one. Jackson, as far as scoring points, was the second best BJR driver. But maybe like Bryce didn't have a good start to the year. We can just quickly check that. not having a great time there. But like it's 12th, 16th, 24th. And the 24th would not have helped them because Jackson came 14th in that third race. So Jackson was actually doing quite a good job. Qualifying not too impressive, but 12th in that second race is quite good. Tassie did an excellent job, 7th, 8th, and 11th, and in the top 10 in all three qualifying sessions as well. And then from Perth, crashed there, but 12th, not very good. And yeah, from Darwin onwards, just things going wrong. That five no point scores in a row. 15th at QR, drove up to 11th, very good job. 15th as well. Qualified 15th for Bend, that was a pretty good job. 11th at Sandown, that was a good job. Dropped 21st though. And 15th second race, 13th at Adelaide, that first race, and then yeah, just not great. Maybe they could see his performances weren't quite right. I think it was heading into Bathurst that we knew that Jackson Walls was going to get picked. Now Nick Percat. Now Nick was doing a pretty good job at the start of the year. Not too bad, but not too great. Albert Parker was impressive, but not as impressive as his teammate. Taupo was rubbish. Tassie, that first race was no good, but the second and third races were quite good, and he obviously got a podium doing the overcut. And so getting some top 10s, one top 10 at Perth, another top 10 at Darwin. So there's some pretty mucky performances there, like 16 down 17th there. And then 19th up 16th. Like, that's just not very good. Townsville wasn't great. That first one, for some reason, had no pace in the Friday race. Yeah. But then you see like qualified 11th. The Ben drove to 5th. Bathurst, they were actually doing a pretty good job as well until the engine failure. And the rest of the year was just rubbish. Well, he qualified better, but he just needed the race pace. Getting hiccups. Trying to get through to the end here. And this is based on the round score at the end of the this is based on the round scores. Trying to get to the end of this. It's great to see Jaden Ojeda get in the shootout, but he didn't seem to have the race pace in any of the races. Kevin Murray. Not great. Really until like 5th at Albert Park. Qualified 3rd in the wet race that was abandoned. A lot of people were upset, like, oh, we can't race in the wet, blah, blah, blah. It's a straight track, for God's sake. Like, do you want to see unnecessary crashing? Because I don't. I think it's a waste of a race to watch everyone just crash out, because then you end up with a result that, while it's a great result, it probably wouldn't have happened in a dry race. You want to see a mixed result in a dry race. Hiccups, my goodness. Come on. Jesus Christ, maybe I might stop what I'm doing here, and then we'll come back to this next time, because this is getting to me. So yeah, I had some people watching earlier, but I think I'm just gonna wrap it up now and deal with my hiccups. All right. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.